Goodbye, England's rose. May you ever grow in our hearts. You were the grace that placed yourselves where lives were torn apart. You called out to our country and you whispered.
For more than 5 decades, Candle in the Wind has stood as one of Elton John's most beloved and haunting ballads, a tribute that captured hearts worldwide and became synonymous with tragedy, fame, and premature death. The song, originally released in 1973 and later rewritten for Princess Diana's funeral in 1997, has long been understood as a poignant homage to Marilyn Monroe, the Hollywood icon whose life was cut short at age 36. But recent revelations from the song's actual creator have shattered this long-held belief, exposing a completely different truth about the ballad's original inspiration. The song that defined an era. Candle in the Wind emerged from the prolific songwriting partnership between Elton John and Bernie Taupin during their golden period in 1973, appearing on the landmark album Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. The haunting melody, paired with Taupin's evocative lyrics, created an instant classic that resonated across generations. The song's opening line, Goodbye Norma Jean, seemed to clearly establish Marilyn Monroe as the subject, referring to her birth name, Norma Jean Mortensen. The track was recorded at Château d'Hérouville in France during the spring of 1973, featuring Elton's distinctive piano and vocals alongside Davy Johnstone's memorable guitar riff, with Dee Murray on bass and Nigel Olsson on drums. When released as a single in 1974, it achieved moderate success, though it didn't reach its full cultural impact until decades later. The song's universal themes of fame, mortality, and the price of celebrity struck a chord with audiences who saw in Monroe's story a cautionary tale about Hollywood's treatment of its brightest stars. For years, the song's meaning seemed crystal clear to fans and critics alike. The lyrics painted a sympathetic portrait of Monroe's life, touching on her struggles with the press, the pressures of fame, and her tragic ends. Lines like, "They crawled out of the woodwork and they whispered into your brain" appeared to reference the paparazzi and media attention that plagued the actress throughout her career. The metaphor of candle in the wind perfectly captured the fragility of Monroe's existence, burning brightly but ultimately extinguished far too soon. The song's cultural significance expanded exponentially when it was adapted in 1997 as a tribute to Princess Diana following her death in a Paris car crash. Bernie Taupin rewrote the lyrics in just 30 minutes, transforming Goodbye Norma Jean into Goodbye England's Rose. This version became the best-selling single in UK chart history and one of the highest-selling physical singles of all time worldwide. The Lyricist's long-kept secret.
Talk to us about Candle in the Wind. I found that really interesting in the book because we all remember Elton singing that song at Diana's funeral.
Right.
And at the time, I don't know about you, I just thought, oh, Elton's rewritten it. But of course he hadn't. You did those new lyrics.
The truth about Candle in the Wind remained hidden for decades until Bernie Taupin began opening up about his creative process in recent interviews and his memoir, Scattershot, Life, Music, Elton and Me. During a 2023 appearance on The Graham Norton Show, Taupin made a startling confession. The revelation came as part of a broader discussion about his songwriting career and the myths that had grown up around some of his most famous compositions. Taupin explained that the song's title itself came from an unexpected source, Russian writer Alexander Solzhenitsyn's play of the same name, which he described as a metaphor for a life snuffed out too soon. This literary connection added another layer to the song's meaning, suggesting that Taupin was drawing from deeper philosophical and artistic traditions in crafting his tribute to premature death and unfulfilled potential. The most shocking revelation came when Taupin admitted that Marilyn Monroe was never his original inspiration for the song. In fact, he confessed to having little personal connection to the Hollywood icon, stating, quote, "Even though I didn't care for Marilyn Monroe, people would think her a much more fragile character and more indicative of the candle in the wind, so I'm glad I went with her." This admission flew in the face of decades of assumption about Taupin being a devoted Monroe fan who felt compelled to immortalize her in song. Instead, Taupin revealed that his fascination lay with a completely different figure from Hollywood's golden age. He said he'd been inspired by a film that had captured his imagination and introduced him to a tragic performer whose story resonated far more deeply with his artistic sensibilities. The Montgomery Clift connection. The true inspiration behind Candle in the Wind was Montgomery Clift, the brooding method actor who became one of Hollywood's most compelling and tragic figures. Taupin revealed his fascination with Clift began after watching The Misfits, the 1961 film that became the final completed movie for both Clift and Marilyn Monroe. The film, directed by John Huston and written by Arthur Miller, told the story of damaged individuals in the Nevada desert, with Clift playing a troubled rodeo rider alongside Monroe's divorced woman seeking a new start. Montgomery Clift represented everything that drew Taupin to the concept of a candle in the wind. Born in 1920, Clift had been one of Hollywood's most promising actors, known for his intense, method-style performances in classics like Red River, A Place in the Sun, and From Here to Eternity. Along with Marlon Brando and James Dean, Clift was considered one of the original method actors in Hollywood, bringing a new level of psychological realism to his roles. But his career and life took a devastating turn following a near-fatal car accident in 1956. It left him physically disfigured and in chronic pain, leading to a dependence on alcohol and prescription drugs that plagued him for the remainder of his life. His later performances, while still compelling, were marked by the visible effects of his suffering, making him a particularly poignant symbol of talent destroyed by circumstances. The Misfits held special significance as it captured Clift in his final major role alongside Monroe and Clark Gable. Gable died just 10 days after filming ended, Monroe would be found dead less than 2 years later, and Clift would struggle with addiction until his death in 1966. The Pragmatic Decision.
I think originally we were talking about possibly writing a completely different song, but time was of the essence. So I suggested, I think it was me that suggested, why don't we just rewrite the lyrics to Candle in the Wind, because it seems appropriate.
Despite his genuine fascination with Montgomery Clift's story, Bernie Taupin faced a practical dilemma when crafting his tribute. As he explained to Graham Norton, quote, "I wondered how many people would know who he was." This concern about Clift's relative obscurity compared to other Hollywood legends led Taupin to make the fateful decision to switch his focus to Marilyn Monroe, whose global recognition ensured the song's broader appeal and understanding. The choice was entirely strategic rather than emotional. Taupin calculated that Monroe's status as a universally recognized sex symbol and tragic figure would make her a more effective vehicle for his meditation on fame and mortality. Her story contained all the elements he wanted to explore: the transformation from ordinary person to global icon, the pressures of celebrity, the exploitation by media and industry figures, and the ultimate tragic end. Monroe's birth name, Norma Jean, also provided a perfect lyrical hook that immediately established the song's subject and themes. The decision proved commercially astute, as Monroe's enduring fascination with the public ensured that Candle in the Wind resonated with audiences worldwide. The actress had died in 1962, just over a decade before the song was written, meaning her death was still relatively fresh in public memory while having gained the distance necessary for artistic reflection. Her life story had already become mythologized, with questions about her relationships, her struggles with mental health, and the circumstances of her death continuing to captivate media and public attention. Taupin's pragmatic approach to songwriting reflected his broader philosophy about his craft. In various interviews, he's emphasized that his lyrics were often more about universal themes than specific people. He explained that Candle in the Wind could just as easily have been about James Dean, Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, or even literary figures like Sylvia Plath or Virginia Woolf. The song was fundamentally about the concept of dying young and becoming frozen in time rather than being a specific tribute to any one person. Now it's time to hear from you. Did this revelation change your understanding of one of music's most enduring ballads? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.